Hi, my name is Wendy Prince, and I'd like to share with you the results from the Grasha-Riechmann Teaching Styles Inventory Survey. Based on the survey, I discovered that my teaching style is that of a facilitator's, which I strongly agree with because I often focus on making provisions for activity-based, student-centered, and self-learning. According to Grasha, the way in which an educator delivers instructions, monitors the work of students, and the teacher-student relationship depend on the teaching style of that educator. The following is the result of my teaching styles based on the Grasha-Riechmann survey. It states that I employ multiple teaching styles, but the dominant style is that of a facilitator. The highest score I got was in the area of a facilitator, which was a 4.63. This means that I facilitate the learning by asking questions and allowing students to explore a variety of options for learning outcomes. Next, I also employ that teaching style of a delegator, which I scored 4.0. This educator supports learners by developing their ability to function autonomously. Then, the personal model was next, where I scored 3.75, and this is where the educator delivers and guides by example. Then for authority, I scored a 3.5, and this teacher sets expectations and guidelines for students to follow. Finally, the teaching style of the expert, I scored the lowest for 3.0. This teacher serves to provide information, and therefore it is not surprising that this is the area that I scored the least. In that it speaks directly to how I feel about teachers from my past who largely served to disseminate information to passive learners. Here is a table that outlines the 5 teaching styles. It describes the features of each and also highlights the advantages and disadvantages of the various teaching styles. As a student from elementary school through university, some teachers used the sage on the stage teaching style where information was fed to learners. Students' learning styles were not considered when planning instructions. In 1992, when I became a teacher, I made a conscious effort to use different teaching styles that cater to the needs and goals of my students. With my knowledge and experience 30 years later, I fully appreciate that an effective teaching and learning environment happens when students' needs are considered and they also get to provide answers for questions and problems. With the development of technology, I tend to have the students contribute a lot to the learning that happens in the class, and as a result, I've developed the role of a facilitator where activities are used to promote self-discovery and students develop problem-solving skills which contribute to the development of a much deeper understanding of the topic. The teaching style of facilitator emphasizes the personal nature of how educators and their students interact. The facilitator's aim is to enable their students with the necessary tools they need to develop autonomy for learning, take initiatives, and to become independent and responsible learners. An advantage of the facilitator teaching style is that it allows educators a level of flexibility which gives them time to focus on the needs and goals of their students. The facilitators present their students with multiple options to explore and appreciate that there are always numerous means to achieve a particular outcome. There are indeed disadvantages with the facilitator teaching style. I appreciate that to be highly effective, I must actively interact and engage with individual students. However, there are times that I sometimes fall short in this area because of unforeseen factors, which include a large class size. There has been a shortage of teachers recently, and as a result, being effective as a facilitator can be difficult. To balance this large class size, I tend to rearrange the layout of the class so that I am accessible to all, which means that the design of the classroom and the class size must be carefully considered when you have the facilitator teaching style. As a facilitator, I ensure that I factor in the learning styles and needs of my students. Having a better understanding of my students allow me to design lessons that cater to the needs of all the students and give them multiple options of achieving greater outcomes. In today's technological age, I present students with options to express and represent their learning, collaborate, communicate, and develop critical reflection and discourse. Being a facilitator gives me the opportunity to be flexible enough during my practice to guide my students in student-centered learning activities based on the constructivist approach. My students get the opportunity to engage with their peers and learn a variety of perspectives to shift their previously held perspectives or to understand how and why people behave the way they do. The onus is always on the students who are the ones responsible for their learning. The students are provided with the necessary tools they need to be successful in their tasks. As a facilitator, I give students the opportunity to take risks and engage in collaborative activities where they get the chance to communicate effectively and to be reflective in a transformative teaching and learning environment. The development of my teaching style as a facilitator was not achieved overnight. My experience of having teachers and being trained by instructors who displayed other teaching styles served as guides on which I based my teaching styles initially. I remember being an expert, then a delegator. I realized that whereas the learning styles brought me great academic success based on results, I did not create the opportunity to find out what the students could do on their own. I was satisfied with having students regurgitate what I fed to them while they were being passive learners, and that they modeled my behavior and followed my rules and guidelines. They were considered smart and well-behaved students. The results were fantastic. However, I didn't have students being critical thinkers who were reflective, and the teaching and learning environment was not open for transformational learning to take place. Today, assuming the role of a facilitator allows me to provide student-led activities in an environment that fosters open communication, collaboration, and critical reflection and discourse. Here are two sources that helped me to get a better understanding of my dominant teaching style. They also helped me to be aware of the other teaching styles as well as the challenges that are associated with my teaching style as a facilitator, and they provided guidance as to how to better manage the challenges that present themselves with the teacher as a facilitator. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I do hope that you found it useful and as enlightening as I did. Thank you.